Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
It is 8:37 in the morning here on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. I'm Larry O'Connor, and Brian Wilson. Finally, we had some heads roll in the Fast and Furious investigation.
Well, it's about time. How long is this investigation going? Isn't the timing of it very interesting, though?
Yeah, right after the election.
Right after the election, yeah.
So, you think about some of the reporters who have been so good on this story in particular. You think of Cheryl Atkinson at CBS News. You think of Matthew Boyle, now at Breitbart.com. And you think of our next guest, who literally wrote the book on Fast and Furious. Her book is called Fast and Furious. She is the news editor at townhall.com and an occasional guest host right here.
That's right.
On Mornings on the Mall. Here she is, the effervescent Katie Pavlich.
Hey, Katie, how are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, Katie. So, Katie, talk to me here. Who got spanked and who got let off the hook?
Well, we still have a lot of people off the hook, including Eric Holder's top tier in the Justice Department. So ATF, this round of, quote, firing, is getting the brunt of the blow, I guess you would say. A former ATF special agent in charge of the Phoenix Field Division, Bill Newell, has reportedly been fired, stripped of his security clearance. Same goes for former ATF special agent in charge of operations in the West, Bill McMahon. He was the guy who just recently got in a lot of trouble because he was put on administrative paid leave, and then he took a six-figure paying job with J.P. Morgan at the same time. So he was double-dipping in taxpayer funds and a six-figure salary at the bank that controls ATS credit cards.
Oh, man.
He's now reportedly been fired. Former assistant special agent in charge of the Phoenix Field Division, George Gillette, has been fired. And Jim Needles, who was, kind of one of those people in Phoenix who sat by and said, I would do this differently, but I'm not really going to speak out and try and stop it, has been demoted, along with field supervisor David Voss, and the case agent Hope McAllister has been reportedly demoted and moved out of Phoenix. Mark Chait, who was in Washington, D.C. At the time, sending lots of emails back and forth from local ATF to Washington, has also been fired. And so, we're seeing a little bit of the top tier in terms of ATF involvement here fired, but we still have lots of DOJ to go.
Now, at DOJ, I don't think you could say he was fired, but he is leaving. I think he left yesterday. Eric Holder's chief of staff, Gary Grindler. Now, is this departure voluntary, or is this one of these things saying, don't let the door hit you on the way out?
This is definitely a voluntary leaving, as far as I'm concerned. However, I think that there might have been a deal done behind the scenes with Gary Grindler. Of course, Eric Holder. Let me first give some background on who Gary Grindler is. Gary Grindler is the 1 degree of separation from Eric Holder in terms of knowledge about Fast and Furious. Grindler was Holder's chief of staff. Grindler was in Phoenix taking notes about Fast and Furious, getting a detailed briefing in Phoenix about Fast and Furious, knowing what the tactics were, making sure to write down on photos of AK-47s that were being used in Fast and Furious that they didn't have a long gun reporting measure, making sure to note that. And so Gary Grindler has a lot of knowledge. So I think Eric Holder was probably very careful about the way that he, let him go, so to speak.
Are you suggesting,
Katie, knows
Katie?
too much.
Are you suggesting that the Attorney General understands that this is the guy who might have the goods on him, and so he sort of engineered a probably well-lawyered departure for this guy, and then said nice things about him on the way out the door.
Oh, yeah.
Talked about
Absolutely,
about his good judgment and his ability to make the tough and correct decisions. Are you suggesting that that was all done to protect Eric Holder?
Yes, absolutely, 100% correct.
Don't pull your punch.
I'm sorry?
I said don't pull your punch.
No, of course not. But I'm really glad you brought up the fact that Eric Holder said that Gary Grindler had good judgment.
Right, that's interpreted as he knows when to keep his mouth shut, right?
Exactly. But on that argument, we've heard over and over again that no one told Eric Holder. No one informed him about what was going on. His staffers failed at letting him know, right? Well, Gary Grindler knew everything. And so was it good judgment for Gary Grindler to have not told Eric Holder, if that's really what happened, to have not told Eric Holder what was going on when he was the head of the Department of Justice and they were trafficking weapons to violent cartels in Mexico? I mean, that's what we're dealing with here. I mean, and, Holder saying that his staff failed him, he didn't read his memos, the memos never got to him from his staff, yet on the way out, Gary Grindler gets a glowing recommendation from Eric Holder for having good judgment.
Katie Pavlich from townhall.com is our guest, and we're talking about the fallout or this first round of punishments to members of the Department of Justice in the light of the Fast and Furious scandal. And I'd like to ask you, what's going on with the whistleblowers here? The brave men who came forward and actually said, hey, this is a problem. The ones who did what they should have done, how are they being treated?
Poorly as ever. None of them are getting promotions. None of them are getting offered, nice package deals to go find another job.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been hearing that some of them are actually looking for other jobs because they're just waiting for ATF to, quote, punish them for speaking out. I do know, to give him some credit, President Obama just signed a bill that reinforces and kind of bulks up the Whistleblower Protection Act. However, as Carrie Pickett has reported, President Obama likes to use the Espionage Act to punish whistleblowers on a regular basis. And so they've been treated very poorly while these ATF agents, and I want to say, too, that as far as I know, that even the guys who got fired, including Bill Newell and Bill McMahon and all those guys, they're still going to get their retirement pension.
Sure.
I mean, because they put enough years in, and we know how the government works, they're going to still get their full retirement pension.
Golden parachute.
They're on their way out with their golden parachute.
Katie, is this the end of it? Is this just the first round?
I think this is just the first round. We still have the Justice Department attorneys fighting with the Oversight Committee attorneys in court, and they're looking to strike a deal. And I think if they decide to strike a deal on documentation or whatever they want to, strike a deal over, it's going to be over, some prosecutions and firings. I do know that criminal charges could be pending for these ATF officials who have been fired, which is going to, give us another round on this first round of firings.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely not the end. I would hope it's not. And, we really need to see some consequences for DOJ, because DOJ is actually the institution that was promoting this, that liked this program, and quite frankly is in charge of ATF and is supposed to be controlling what they're doing.
Of course, yeah. Remember
ATF has gotten the bulk of their responsibility when it's really DOJ.
Remember when there were scandals and they used to say the fish rots from the head down?
Right.
Apparently this fish has no head. Hey, Katie.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining. Are you going to the Christmas tree lighting tonight? Are you going to exciting?
That was on Tuesday, I thought.
No.
That was the Capitol Christmas tree, not the White House. Oh, I see how you are.
Okay, well maybe I'll have to stop by. I'm like Brian. I actually like Christmas trees, so
thank you.
Wow, she remembers. See, she was here when we had this original debate about the Capitol.
She is on Team O'Connor on this one.
I see how you are, Katie. It's nice having you here for the last time, Katie.
Oh
no, I'm only
news editor Katie from townhall.com. Katie Pavlich, keep up the good work.
Have a good one.